Good morning, everybody. How we all doing? We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Hey, Rascal. Hey, Copper Lily. It's a Saturday stream, a Saturday morning stream. How weird is this? I'm just going to tell you up front, I am not a morning person, but I'm going to do my best. Hey, Frazee. Hey, Raina. I hope everybody's having a good Saturday so far. Some of you might be farther along in Saturday than I am, um, but I hope your weekend's going well. At least today the stream is happening when the sun is up on my end. Yeah, I figured that might be the case for some folks, you know. Frazee, what day is it for you? Is it Friday or Saturday? I don't know how time zones work. Are you just really far along in Saturday, Frazee? Past 5 p.m. Okay, yeah. Yeah, for me it is very much still morning where I am, but that's okay. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Hello. Copper Lily says, I work all night, so I need to go to bed soon. Hey, that's totally fine. I figure most people are not going to be live with us today. I think viewership is going to be very low on this stream, but that's okay. I don't really care. I think most folks are probably going to catch the VOD for this. But either way, that's the cool thing about VODs. It's going to be helpful for them either way, right? You know, they're gonna catch the VOD and they're gonna get the same information regardless. Um, so yeah, the goal of today's impromptu stream or somewhat impromptu stream is to help folks get the social media app, the binary upload boom code, running on their machines early in the weekend prior to the massive super review, which will be taking place tomorrow. And so that you have some time to mess around with it and understand it prior to class on Tuesday, essentially, because I know a lot of folks work, and the super review is going to take up most of your Sunday. So really, today is the time, right? So that's the goal: is to get that going. Get that going reasonably early, at least, so that you have time to mess with it and understand it. Um, and yeah, and then we're going to touch a little bit on like the routes and the general structure. We're not going to go into the middleware, all the different things like Molter and Cloudinary and how they work, just because Leon will be covering that on Tuesday, and I'm trying not to get ahead of the class material. So, um, hey KTR, hey Hussein. Frazee says, I'm happy I just didn't have to be up at 2 a.m. Hey, Tech Natalie. Hey, Ty. Yeah, it is early, isn't it? Yeah. It's early for me too, but I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not a morning person. So uh, I'm much more aware in the evenings, but I've got coffee. I do have coffee. So I think we'll be fine. VOD double speed. Yeah. I know a lot of people do that. Ads be playing. Okay. We'll give folks another minute here before we dive in. This stream is probably not going to be like, my goal here is to not have a super long stream. It's really just to get you up and running, review some of the basic concepts that we talked about in class on Thursday, and then turn you loose to do your own thing. So, loving the Saturday stream. Hey, Mitch. Good morning from Phoenix. It's 7 a.m. My goodness. Okay. Yeah, that's very early. I love everybody sharing their local times. Ooh, Abidemi, 3 p.m. That's like the perfect time. Mid-afternoon, your brain's clicking, you've had lunch. It's great. And early, nah. 9 a.m. Okay. It's so cool to me to see how folks, tune in from all different time zones all over the world. I love seeing that in my Twitter followers as well. Um, folks from literally everywhere. It's so neat. Duncan says, hope someone makes a mind bingo for when she says she hopes it won't be a long one. Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm jinxing myself even by saying that, but that's truly a goal for today. Um, we'll see how well it works. You rise at 5 a.m.? Well, congratulations, morning person. I do not. Yeah. I'm definitely an evening person. I get a lot of stuff done very late in the day. But, everybody's wired differently, right? It's just how your brain works. All right. I'm hoping that ads are over for most folks. You got a Toshiba ad. I'm hoping that ads are over for most folks. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me know if you're still stuck in ad zone, but well, I guess you wouldn't hear me anyway. So I guess we're just going to go. Oh, captions. Sorry. 2 seconds. Put those on. I'm glad for that reminder. All right, let's see if they're cooking. Yep. All right, so captions should be available if you need or want them. They are on now. Morning in the building. Oh, 11:04 or yeah, 23:04, 11:04 p.m. in Tokyo. Nice. That's awesome. Uh Engram says, I will make a social thing as my 100 devs project. Will not have a problem as this course takes some part in it. Um, you mean, are you worried about duplication, like duplicating what the course is doing? I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but no, I think you're fine. I mean, as long as you make it a unique product, right? As long as you add your own features and your own spin on it, um, your own unique ideas, you'll be fine. There's tons of, think about how many social apps there are out there. There's hundreds of different social products, and they can't all be completely different from each other, right? Most of them share the same features. So I think you'll be just fine. There's about 10 of us in Japan doing 100 devs. Oh, that's so neat. I love it. Yeah, totally. Okay, so what code are we working with? Well, we are working with the binary upload boom code, which is in the 100 devs repository. I will share the link. There you go. So this is the code. Hey, Catchy, welcome. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well today. I hope you are too. So that's the code there. I just shared the link in chat. So go ahead and hit that up. And what we're going to do is we're just going to fork and clone it down. We're going to get it up and running, look at it a little bit, and then we're going to explore some of just the general structure and routes. So again, that's the goal for today. So once you visit the code, all you'll need to do is just Reunion Island. Wow, yet another cool location to be from. That's rad. I love this so much. The fact that like these kinds of tools, like the internet and these kinds of tools, just allow us to talk, even though I'll probably never go to Reunion Island, but we can talk here, and that's so neat. I love it. Connectivity is cool. Um, All right, so let's go ahead and fork this. And so what we're going to do is what forking is we're essentially making like a direct copy into our own GitHub repository, right? So we are creating a literal, like think about a road, right? We're creating a little branch in that road, fork in the road into our own repo. And then we're going to take that repo that we just made and we're going to clone it down to VS Code. And so that we can work on it and look at it in VS Code. So I think most of us have probably done forks before, but if you haven't, let's just do that together. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new fork. 10 people from Kenya too. Wow. We'll do that. And you can name it whatever you would like. I've named mine Binary Upload Boom Demo, but whatever you want, and you can change the description if you want to. And we're just going to go ahead and create fork. And so now that I've done that, I can see that I am now in my GitHub account, and now I have this repo which has all the same stuff in it, right? But it's now one that I own and can make changes to. Hey, Amen. So we are actually doing some homework for a course that we are all in. It's a free course called 100 Devs, and it teaches you how to be a web developer, literally going from zero to being a web developer, totally free on Twitch. And I am one of the sort of volunteer helpers. I'm not a teacher, but I am one of the volunteer helpers with the course. So if you want to learn more about it, you can do !Leon in the chat. And so what we're doing today is we have a social media app. We're cloning down the code, we're getting it running, and we're just exploring a little bit about how it works. So you can do, actually, I'll do it for you. We'll go ahead and just do !Leon in chat for you. And feel free to check out any of those links. There's a website, there's a Discord, and there is a Twitch channel for the main classes. Again, totally free on Twitch. Oh, you're from Uganda. That's so cool. I love this. I'll just talk about like places all over the world where folks are from. All right. Okay, so I've done the fork, right? Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to clone it down to VS Code. So I already have a new window open here. And what's neat about VS Code is it makes it super easy to clone down a repo. I'm going to zoom in just a touch here. There we go. I hope you all can see that decently. The nice thing about VS Code is it makes cloning super easy. Literally, when you open a new window, there is a button for cloning a Git repository. So we're going to do that. And then I'm just going to pop back up here. I'm going to copy the URL for the repository that I want to clone, paste it in, hit enter, and choose the place where I want to save it. So I'm not going to let you see that, but really you just choose, like I mostly just put them in my, documents folder. Some people have very elaborate folder structures. I do not. I'm just going to drop it in my chosen location. I selected the location. It has cloned down. You can't really see that. It is cloned down. And then it literally asks if I would like to open the cloned repository. Oh, we got a posture check there. Okay. No neck cracks this time, but still good to pull the shoulders back a little. And then once we say, would you like to open, you can just click open. And there you go. Now we have all of the code. And the cool thing is it is already connected to that repo that we just created, to that fork repo. So you don't got to do all the Git setup and all that stuff. We already have a Git link between this code right here and the code that is in our remote repo up there on GitHub. I never get a get started page at open. Did I change a setting somewhere? Oh, good. You found it, KT? Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, because that get started page is really, that's how I usually just use it to quickly open stuff, right? It gives you all those nice quick links. Hey, EFS, welcome. Hope you're having a good day. Okay, so we've got the code open. Now let's actually get it working, because if I were to just open a terminal and do npm start, it would not work, right? Because we're missing some things. So what do we think might be missing in this code that we're going to need to add? What's an important component in this code that just by looking at this we could probably tell is missing? From past projects that we've set up, what do we need to add? Yes, so we're missing some node modules, we're missing npm, we're missing yeah, exactly. Yep. Bree outside, welcome. Coming, I love it when first time chatters come in with the right answer. They're just like, bam, I got this. That's awesome. Um, yeah, we need a couple things, right? We need the env file and we need our dependencies, our modules. Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and add those, both of those things. Um, yeah, we'll go ahead and let's do the dependencies first. Um, so I'm going to open up a terminal here and I'm going to use bash. You don't have to, but use whatever works for you. I use bash. So we can actually just do, all we need to do really is just npm install. And what that will do is it will automatically install all of the dependencies that I need. Now, why does that work? Why can I just say, for this project, why can I just say npm install and everything works? Hey, Moonpix. Yes, exactly. We already have this file already has a package.json file, and in there all of the packages are listed, right? And so when I say npm install, it's smart enough to just say, "Oh, hey, there's already a reference here. I know exactly what needs to be installed and what versions need to be installed. I'm going to take care of that for you," which is a very nice feature. Um, so let's go ahead and do that. All right. I'm actually just going to close that. There we go. All right. npm install. Perfect. Okay. So we have added all these packages and now we have a node modules folder, right? So we can see that that's one of the things that was missing. It's now present. So our packages are going to work. Our dependencies are going to work. Did I clone the repo in the terminal? No, I actually used the handy dandy feature that GitHub has right in its built in, where you can clone a GitHub repo that way. If you want to see how I did it, you can always rewind the VOD. But literally, when you open a new GitHub window, there's that Get Started page that shows up, and there is literally a link that allows you to clone an existing GitHub repo. It's right there on the Get Started page. I just use that. I don't worry about doing it in the terminal. Hey, the zero. All right, so we've got our packages installed. Now, the second thing that y'all said was missing is our .env file. And I'm going to go ahead and I just know that it belongs in the config folder. But if I didn't know whether my env file belonged at the root, like just here, or in the config folder, how would I check that? How would I know where the .env file belongs? Hey, bada boy. I love the enthusiasm. Good morning, Zena. Yeah, exactly. We look inside of our server.js and we can see the path that it's looking for that .env file. So it belongs in config/.env. Yeah, exactly, Fino. Yep. First try using VS Code to clone that was easy. Yeah, yeah. And there's knowing how to use the terminal for some operations is great, but then there's other times when there's literally like a built-in feature that does it correctly every single time and you're not going to screw it up. And so sometimes you just want to use that instead, right? But I think for setting up like a basic local repo and doing all the, and like setting up a repo from, setting up like a local repo from scratch, and then linking it up to your remote repo, I think you should still use the terminal for that. But for like cloning down and stuff like that, you can just literally use the link in VS Code for that. Yeah, so now we know where our .env file belongs. So let's go ahead and build one. So I'm going to make sure in my config folder here, and I'm going to add .env. Boop. Okay, now I wonder how we can tell what we need in here. Obviously, you could probably do like a search for for anything that references the .env file in the code. Or what's an easier way? What's a way that what's something that might spell it out for us in this code? What's something that might literally tell us what we need? README, exactly. There is literally a README file in this code. Yep. So when in doubt, look for a README file. It might just tell you exactly what you need to do. Exactly. Read the documentation. Yep. We love to jump in and just try stuff, right? But sometimes there's documentation. So maybe let's just read the instructions. Yeah. Um, so create a .env file. We've done that in the config folder. We did that. And add the following as key value pairs. So it's telling us that we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables here. So I'm just going to grab these, drop them in my env file, then we'll clean them up. Okay. Ray Anthony asks, what happens on the job? Is terminal a must know? I think you should have a basic level of comfort with the terminal because you might, I mean, yeah, your job might do everything through like the GitHub GUI, right? And you might be like, oh, I don't need to use the terminal, but you might need to use it for other things. So, for example, at my job, we don't use GitHub. We just don't. I don't know why. I'm trying to fix that, but so I haven't had to use like the terminal for that, but I have had to use it for other things, certain commands, activating certain programs that don't have a user interface. Sometimes, especially in like corporate environments, there's going to be software that was written 20 years ago that they're still using, and it just does not, literally does not have a GUI. And so you have to do things through the terminal. And so it's good to have a basic level of comfort and know the basic commands. You don't got to be a wizard, but if you know the basics, that's an advantage that you'll have. Somebody wants the link to the repo. Yep, I can get you that really quickly. All right, there. That's oh sorry, that's the link to my. So use the link that KT posted. I just posted the wrong one. I posted. Please don't use mine. Use the one from the 100 Devs account. So use the link that KTR posted. Thank you, KT. Um, no, you're fine, MD Res. It's okay. Anyone read the game manual when you first buy a game? Yeah, I know. I don't. Okay. So let's get our variables set up. We're gonna get rid of these dashes here. Formatting. Okay, so a couple of these we kind of just know how to handle right off the bat, right? So our port is going to be the port that we're going to be listening on. So I'm just going to use 8500, which is the port that I usually use for these demos. You don't have to use 8500. You could leave it as 2121. 8500 is just my standard for streams. Thanks for the answer. I worry too much. All right. So pretty standard, right? We've got our port. Um, the next thing we've got is our database string. And we should also know where to find this too. So you can just go into MongoDB and say connect and connect my app. Excuse me. Go to connect and connect my app, and then copy the string from there. So I already have this pasted in a notepad, so I'm going to grab it from there, but I'm going to pause to give you all some time to get that if you don't have it already. Onweed says 100% you need to be familiar with basic bash commands. Yeah, and I would agree with that. When I started my job, my current job, I didn't know basic bash. Yeah, this was before 100 devs when I started my current job, and I just didn't have a history with that. And it made it a lot harder to do certain things that I needed to do. Like I had to learn and memorize and write down all of those basic bash commands because I just didn't know them. And it made it a lot harder. Yeah, and there's different, in this case we're using bash. I just like bash. Um, and but yeah, you might have different types of terminals, but the commands are going to be similar. And so it's just good to know them and understand the basics of what they do. So it's not just gibberish that you're typing for no reason, right? Okay, so I've got my database string copied in here. Does anybody not know how to find their database connection string, their MongoDB string? Does anybody not know how to do that? Hey, Nikki Atoll, welcome. Good to have you here. I'm going to hydrate real quick. Okay. All right. Yeah, we can do that real quick. So you should, if you are not currently in 100 devs, you might not have a MongoDB cluster set up, but kind of this is working off the assumption that you already do. Excuse me. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to MongoDB real quick. Sign in, connect to my cluster. MongoDB really needs a dark mode. Okay, and then when I do that, I'm connected to my cluster right here, and I'm going to go ahead and say connect. And I'm going to say connect my application and grab my connection string. MDRes, after npm install, you'll just need to create an env file in your config folder and do just what we're doing now. So you did npm install and then go into the config folder and create a .env file. And then what we're doing is we're setting that up right now. So we're adding our variables and such. So go ahead and you can copy your connection string and drop that into your env file. Now, if you're not familiar with connection strings, you're gonna have to make a couple changes. So by default, the string will contain your username, but what you will need to do is add your password, right? That's not gonna be put in there automatically. So you can see where I put my password, which is directly between the colon and the @ sign, right? Replace anything that's, by default, it's going to have like the word password between like two carets. So replace that entire thing with your password for your database or for your cluster. I'm sorry. Your cluster password, drop that in there. And so that way you'll have your connection credentials. And what that's going to do is it's going to sign you in to your cluster. You can see it's signing you into cluster 0. And then after that, we're going to need to add one more thing. We're going to need to add the name of the database that we want to connect to. So I have added my name here. I just chose, you can choose whatever name you want. I chose a generic name, just social app. I'm going to change that a little bit so I don't overwrite my existing one. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it. I want to connect to my existing one so I can show you some content. So no, I'm going to leave this as is. You can call it whatever you want. I'm calling mine social app. And you're just going to put that database name between the slash and the question mark. Now, pop quiz. I put the name of my database I want to connect to right here, right? Do I need to go into MongoDB as well? Do I need to go into the web interface? Do I need to go in here and create it there as well? Do I need to go to, collections and new database and create it there as well? Yeah, exactly. We do not, right? It's smart enough that if this database does not exist, it will create it for us. Yes, and that's true for collections as well, but be careful with your terminology because here we are not connecting to a collection. We are connecting to a database. The collections are handled later. This is remember that let's remember the structure. Cluster, databases, collections, documents, right? Collections are inside the database. So the first thing so you can think about it kind of like in a sequence, right? The first thing we're doing here is we're connecting to our cluster. That's the highest tier, the highest level in the hierarchy. Then we're connecting to our database. So we're moving down one level, getting a little bit more specific. And then we're going to later be connecting to specific multiple collections inside of that database and adding individual documents. Moonpig says, I was just about to do it that way. You're about to go in and create a database. And yeah, you don't got to do that. You can. I mean, there's no harm in it. But it's just an unnecessary step. Yep. Cluster, database, collections, documents. And I know I keep restating that, but that's vital to know, to remember what exactly you're doing when you're adding stuff like this to your string, right? Yeah. Okay, so I've pasted in my string, got my stuff in there, cool beans. Now we have some new variables here that we haven't seen before. We have a cloud name, we have an API key, and we have a secret. Okay, what are these? Well, these are Cloudinary variables. And what Cloudinary is, I'm not going to go into any detail on this today, but Cloudinary is just a way for you to host the media that's associated with your app, right? So you can host videos, you can host images, and you can store the links to those images in MongoDB, but they're hosted elsewhere, right? So in MongoDB, you're just going to be linking to those, and then they're actually going to be hosted on Cloudinary. All right. So let's make sure that we can get Cloudinary set up. Now, I already have it set up, but just because I had to test this yesterday, but you can just go to cloudinary.com. I'll paste the link here in chat. If you don't already have an account, go ahead and set one up. Just do sign up for free. It's going to ask you to fill in a little bit of information. You can choose how much you want to fill in. I mean, I just basically gave them username and password, and then like my first name, and just left whatever else I could blank because I don't care. So go ahead and go there and set up your account. And it's probably gonna ask you to verify. Like it's gonna send you an email to verify your email and then activate your account. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in because I already have an account. But do please let me know if you're signing up right now. Do please let me know when you are fully logged in. Right, you've signed up, you've verified your email, and you are fully logged in. So just let me know that so I know where we're at in the process. I'm going to hydrate. I'll give you folks a minute to do that. Wow, Moonpix, that was quick. Nice. So once you're fully logged in, you should see select a product. I don't. Is it going to force you to select a product, or can you skip that? Nice, Big Sugs. Okay, whatever you can skip, just skip. You have to. Okay. I would say probably. Okay, Rascal says you want programmable media. I don't remember which one I selected, so. But yeah, just say programmable media. That's fine. Yeah, when it asks you for that. Yep, say programmable media. Someone else had API issues because they chose the other, so they had to go back through it again. Huh, that's interesting. I think I maybe chose the other and I got it working just fine, but I don't know. It could be any number of things that might cause problems. So best to go with what works. In that case, I think it's programmable media. Hey, Interplanet, welcome. Interplanet, we've already cloned down the code and we are just getting Cloudinary set up. Say developer, Moonpix. Yeah, we are definitely developers. We aren't DevOps. Yeah, it makes you like select all these options, and I'm just like, I just want to log it or just want to set up my account. Done setting up. Thank you, Akechi. Yeah, everybody, let me know once you get to like basically this page, the page that I'm on now. Just let me know when you get there. Done. Awesome. Cool. Got folks coming in. Perfect. Just signed in with Google for the first time. Didn't have to set anything up. We'll see if it works. Yeah, I don't. I for some reason I always sign up for things with my Google account, but in this case I didn't. I have no idea why. I just had a brain skip. So who knows? Thank you, Raina. No worries, Bree outside. Be outside with your dog. Absolutely. Definitely. Catch the VOD. That's what VODs are for. If you're behind, if you're stuck lost in the sauce or stuck, the VODs are all my streams are recorded. So you can always just jump in and catch the VOD too. Done. Awesome. We'll give it another couple minutes here. But yeah, the VODs are a great way to catch up if you need to. Chase the butterflies. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Give it just a little bit longer. It's raining and we're just sitting in the grass. Aw. She's 12 and does what she wants. Yeah, absolutely. Go yeah, Brendan, I loved your post about getting your job. That's so awesome. Yeah. If you didn't know, Brendan actually got a job, um, pretty cool job. And I'm super excited for their success. They've been a great part of the community, and I'm so happy that they were rewarded with with an awesome job. Yeah, absolutely. What product to select? Well, programmable media. Choose programmable media if you're on the product selection. Have furniture flipping hat to wear. No worries, Goa. Thank you for popping in. I really appreciate it. Yeah, there's been so much success lately, and I want that for all of you, right? And I love that we have these great examples, such as Brendan coming in and showing us that hey, you can do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. We gave it another 2 minutes. If you're stuck, you can actually catch the VOD now. So if you're still working on it, you can always go to the VOD, rewind a little bit, catch up, and then rejoin the live broadcast. So, all right, we're on the home page now. You guys will do it too. Exactly. See, take their advice. You guys will do it too. 100%. Cheers. Have a great day. I love your positivity, Brendan. All right, so we're on the home page now. And in order to get the values for all of these variables that we need, the cloud name, API key, API secret, all you really need to do is just go to this top link here, the configuring your SDK. Um, I guess start configuring. All right, and when you do that, and this is probably kind of small, but hopefully you have it up on your screen so you can see it a little better. it says install and configure the SDK in your application code. Now, um, it gives you, some code down here, but this isn't necessarily what you want. Make sure that you go to the node.js setting right here, because that's what we're using, right? We're using Node. We're not using any of these other things. And I mean, really, I think the options are going to be the same either way, but you just best to go to the correct setting, right? And this is very small. I'm sure you can't see it. I'll see if I can zoom in. Oh, there we go. I can zoom in. Cool. We're not going to copy the whole thing because we set up our code in a slightly different way, right? We just need the individual variable values for our env file. Zena says, "I love how straightforward this is." Yeah, I love it when they just give you the stuff, right? They just give you what you need. So the first thing here is our cloud name. I'm going to grab that. Free secrets. Yeah. Now I'm going to be um I do I share like my this kind of thing on stream just because it's helpful for people, and I trust that folks aren't going to be abusing that help, right? So I trust you and I believe in you. All right. So we're going to put our cloud name in here. Cloud name first, followed by our API key, and then followed by our API secret. So uppercase or lowercase, well, just leave these variable names as is, right? You're not going to change these. Just copy the values. Just copy the values from this screen. Just grab the values, drop them in. Leave everything else as is. Okay? So you're going to populate all these variables with the particular values. And don't forget to save. So once you have that, don't forget to save. Yeah, and notice I did remove the quotes around, just to keep it in line with the other variables that we have here. I think I think it can handle if you do have quotes around the strings, but I just took them off to match the way we're used to doing these variables, right? Normally when we put stuff in our env folder or env file, we just drop it in, no quotes, and so I just did these other ones to match that. The key configuration. Um, what do you mean by that, Abidemi? So we didn't configure these in any way. Cloudinary just gave them to us. So all we did to get there was we just logged into Cloudinary, went to the configure your SDK, and said start configuring, and then chose node.js. MDRes, how to create cloud. Well, have you used MongoDB in the past, MDRes? Have you been using databases in the past, MongoDB databases in the past? So that's all we did. We just went here and we copied the values for each one and dropped them into the variables that we already had. And where did we get those variable names? Well, we got them from the README file, because with this code, there is a README file. So everybody there? You're talking about Cloudinary? Well, if you signed up, it's going to give you if you signed up for Cloudinary MDRes, if you created your account, it's just going to give you that information. You don't have to create anything yet. Yeah, so if you signed up for Cloudinary, you can get this information, and that's all you need. We're not going to do anything else. We're not going to be configuring anything with Cloudinary right now. We're just going to be connecting to it, and it's going to let you store things once you're connected. Yeah. We're not going to get crazy here. We're going to keep it simple. Keep it chill. Yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff here and it's telling you to do things and all this stuff, but nope, you don't gotta. All you gotta do is copy your SDK stuff, drop it in to your env, make sure all these variables are populated, save it, right? And now that we've done that, we're ready to try and run it. Now, how do I know what start script I should use in order to get this code running? How do I know if there is a start script? Yes. Yeah, we can just look in the package.json and see the scripts there. So there is a start script, and that start script is going to start nodemon server.js. So that's fine with us. We can just do, yep, we're going to check our package.json, see if there's a start script, and go ahead and start that script. So let's see if it works. All right, so I'm getting some good messages down there in the terminal. I see that my server is running, and it's running on that port that we specified. And I'm also connected to my MongoDB cluster. Yep. Yeah, and we could also check and see if there's something in the README file that tells us the best way to start it. Yeah, absolutely. The README file is always a great place to look, just to see what am I supposed to do. Exactly. Oh yeah, and Kevin says if you don't know if things aren't clear, you can always go npm run in the terminal, and that will list all scripts. So that's a great option as well. Thank you, Kevin. All right, so we're connected. So I'm going to go ahead and go. No worries, Bob. They say, is there a particular reason you use nodemon as your start script instead of under npm run dev? Yeah, so I think if we had multiple environments going, if we were going to be releasing this to production, we would not want, we would not want nodemon running under just npm start. We would definitely have that be node server.js. But in this case, this app really isn't for prime time, so it's not exactly the best practice configuration of the scripts. Definitely. I agree with that. No, you didn't miss anything, Bob. Yeah. Okay, so let's go into our browser and see if we can run it. So I said localhost, and I'm going to be running 8500 here. Hey, the homepage works. If we're putting this on our portfolio, would we want to change that? That's up to you. Because I mean, you're not like releasing this to thousands of users necessarily. Yeah, you do not want to keep restarting your server in production. Management will be mad at you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also that's a great point there. Angram says, I usually put a .env example file in the same place as the env file. Yeah, and Leon has done that occasionally as well. He didn't do it this time. I'm not sure why, but he has done that in the past, just putting an example file there instead. Yeah. Yes, we got some great knowledge drops and tips in chat today. Thank you all. I love that. env examples are great, yeah, because it tells you what you need, right? And it's in the same place that your env file would be, so it gives you two pieces of information. It tells the person installing it exactly where the env file should go, and it tells them what needs to be in it without actually being an env file. So I think that's awesome. All right, so we got a couple options here. We can log in or we can sign up. I'm going to go ahead and sign up. And I'm going to put in a username here, just wolf2. Email address is just going to be wolf2@wolf2.com. These obviously it's not a real email address. I'm going to put in a password here and confirm that password. All right, and submit. Okay, and so now it's taken me to basically a place where I can add a new post. So it gives me some options. I can log out, I can add a post, title, caption, and I can choose an image that's stored on my computer. Can I write you an email to that address? No, it's not a real email address. I mean, you could try, but I think it would get rejected. um, so you can choose a file, title, caption, image. So essentially, what this is just a very basic Instagram style. It's basically just an Instagram style app, right? It just allows you to post images and say a few things about them. And then it also has some features for liking those images as well. So let's go ahead and return to the feed. And when I do that, I can see that it's showing me some images that are already in here, right? There's already some things here, but I haven't uploaded anything yet. And so what this is these are images that are posted by other users on the app. Kind of like how when you log into Instagram, um, you can just scroll through a feed of other people's stuff, right? And just as an aside, all of these images are images that were generated by AI, by Stable Diffusion, by me. So yeah, this I've been messing around with Stable Diffusion and having some fun with it, and these are some things that I generated. I know, my favorite of all time, the Watermelon Man. I had to include Watermelon Man. Yes, it's the best thing that AI has ever created. So yeah, these were generated by Stable Diffusion. And but I'm including them here as if another user had posted them, in which case another user did, which was me under another account. Your feed will not have images. That's correct, because think about this. Why wouldn't your version have any images? See if you can answer that. Why doesn't your feed have images like mine does? Exactly, because your version of the database doesn't have any data. Yeah, it's different databases, right? You're connected to your database, I'm connected to mine. Um, and so yours doesn't have any data yet. You can add some. And then but I'm just going to show you like how the app is supposed to function, right? So you can definitely add, your own stuff, but I just wanted some pre-populated stuff in there to show you how it's supposed to function. So I'm going to click on this one. And we can see that when I do that, it brings me to a new page with a title, an image title, a caption, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. There we go. Um, Title, caption, a like button, and some options to either return to my profile or return to the central feed. I'm still invested in the Sarah versus Bob versus Victor drama. Yeah, there's a whole lot of history there, apparently. But apparently this is Bob's app because his face is up there in the favicon. So, but yeah, so you have some options here. If I wanted to, I could like this. So let's see what happens when I like it. Bob says mine. So when we click the like button, we can see that the number of likes has gone up by 1 because I just liked it. Now, on this page, on this page, I don't see the option to delete this. We would expect with a CRUD app that I should be able to potentially delete things, right? Why do we think that? Why do you think it is that there is no? I can like this, but I can't delete it. Yeah, you're not the poster. Exactly. It's not my post. So I didn't make this post, so I can't delete it because I don't own it. It's not attached to me, to my current username, Wolf2. This was something I posted yesterday under a different username. Yeah, so I can't delete this. But let's go ahead and return to profile and see if we can add something. I've got a couple folks getting errors on various things. That's why I wanted to help you get this set up early, right? Because if you're getting errors, then hopefully it'll give some time to troubleshoot. Um, so let's see if we can add a post under this username, Wolf2. We'll say test Wolf2, test caption Wolf2, and we're going to choose an image to add. So I've got a bunch of stuff that I generated using Stable Diffusion, so I'm going to pick one. Some are better than others. Let me find a good one. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. I like this one. So I had it generate some images of posters advertising cat food, and I think this one is my favorite. So again, this is Stable Diffusion trying to generate some a poster for cat food. So we'll submit it. There we go. What program am I using for Stable Diffusion? There's a Stable Diffusion GUI that I found online and installed. So yeah, I'm not using the command line version. I'm actually using a GUI, and I can share that at the end of the stream. Yeah, so if it's not working, that likely means that your Cloud, it's not able to hit Cloudinary. So somebody asked, do we have to add each image to Cloudinary individually? So let's think about what's happening here. Let's think about what's happening here when we are uploading an image. So remember, the reason we said that we're using Cloudinary at all is to host our images, right? That's where our images are hosted. And so when I click upload, what that's doing is putting it on Cloudinary, getting a link to the image, and storing that in MongoDB, right? And we'll look at it. We'll look at MongoDB here in a minute and see what's happening. Marketing's over there quaking in their boots. Yeah, I generated like 20 different posters for like cat and dog food, and all of them were hilarious. This one's one of my favorites just because it's so like just the cat's face. I love it. Yeah, and if you didn't like save at maybe make sure that you saved after you updated your env file, check all those basic things, right? Make sure you save, try restarting your server. If you started your server a little bit early, restart your server. Yeah, it does it automatically because every time we're uploading one of these images, think about where it's going, right? It has to live somewhere. You upload an image, where does it go? It has to be somewhere. And so that somewhere is Cloudinary. And the link to that image is all that lives in MongoDB. Yep. Image file is stored in Cloudinary, the file itself, the image itself, and the URL is stored in MongoDB. I mean, yeah, you could finagle it to store in Mongo as a blob or clob or whatever, but I think it's just easier to like Cloudinary is built for this kind of hosting. Cloudinary is built for image hosting, for multimedia hosting, that kind of thing. And so I think it's just a better configuration that way. That makes it so easy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. So now let's see what happens when I return to the feed. So now I can see that the most recent thing here is my wonderful cat food poster, which I love with all of my heart. And so let's click on that. So we click on that and we can see that it has my name that I picked for it. It has my caption. And now what's different here? And that's true. Rascal brings up a good point, is that if you try to host everything in MongoDB, um, MongoDB free tier, which we're using the free version, right? It does have its limits. And so you might get close to that if you're hosting a lot of images and heavy content there. Hey, Beke. Welcome. Welcome from Turkey. So what's different about this page than the page that we looked at before? What do we see here that might be an additional feature? Yeah, exactly. We have a delete button, right? Because I own this post. This is mine. So I can delete it if I want to. I'm not going to because it's glorious, but I could if I wanted to. Yeah, Doge. I did make dog food posters as well. I might have to drop one of those in here too because they're all great. Yeah, we got this. We got the option to delete. I can still like it. It's funny that I could like my own stuff. That seems like a little bit, dishonest. But yeah, we do have a delete button here now as well. We need to test the button. Yeah, I don't want to test it with this one though. I like this one too much. Um, so now if we go back to the feed, we can see everything's still there. Now what's interesting to me, I wonder. So I'm on the feed. I wonder if there doesn't appear to be a button that was going to allow me to go to my profile to add something new. So I don't see like a new button or anything like that. Let's see what happens if I click this. Okay, so I have to click the header in order to go to the new post screen. You can do that Reddit thing where all the posts start with one like, yeah. Are there any limits on Stable Diffusion, which again is the image generator I used? Is there any limits on Stable Diffusion like Dolly? No, not right now. Right now, it's completely open source. It's on GitHub. It is free for you to do whatever you want with, which I think is really cool, which is why I'm using it because I'm using it a lot. Yeah, it's really nice. Go full Reddit. Make people, yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's add one more here. We'll choose another file here. I'm going to pick another Stable Diffusion image. I'm going to pick one of the. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this one. Oh, interesting. It didn't get rid of the other image. This is interesting. I'm curious to see what happens here. This is one of the dog ones I generated. Gorg. Okay, let's see what happens here. I guess maybe I bet it's just storing these as like a gallery. So it submitted it, and I bet it's just storing them in like a gallery to show what I've submitted. I don't think we broke it. No, I think this is intended. It's just not very well. It's not very well like explained what it's doing. So really, there should be a header up here. We should probably add a header up here that says something like upload gallery or something like that. Yeah, I think this should describe what it's doing. Yeah, these are all my posts exactly. So this should say something like upload gallery or past uploads, which would make it clear what it is. So um, we've got Gorg here, and if we return to the feed, that'll be right there. So perfect. Everything seems to be working fine. Yep. All right, so let's see if we can delete this. As Leon mentioned, we'd add the ability to click someone's username and see all their uploads. Yeah, that's a good feature to have. So if we try to delete Gorg here, there we go. So when I did that, it took me back to my profile. It shows me that I only have one upload here, and the other one is deleted. Yeah, so the app seems to be working fine. All the information is here. We can see we can't delete other people's posts. Hazel says, "Man, I almost missed the stream by sleeping in." Yeah, it's morning for me too, Hazel. So I sympathize. Okay, so I mean the app itself is not terribly complicated. Does anybody have any questions on like how the app works before we take a break and then pivot to the actual code and see kind of trace some routes and see how things and actually what we're going to do is we're going to do two things. We're going to look at MongoDB and see what is being stored in MongoDB to power all of this, right? And then Also, we're going to look at the code itself and maybe trace some of the routes through and kind of remind ourselves of how this information travels in and out of the models, views, and controllers. So, any last questions before the break? Again, when we come back, we're going to actually dive into the database and the code itself and see what's going on. We'll also see if Google Timer is working again. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions. So we'll go ahead and take our break. It's that time anyway. This is a perfect pausing point. Um, if you're new to this stream, we take breaks at the top of every hour, or try to, to be healthy, to go get a drink or use the restroom or whatever you need to do. And then 5 minutes, we'll come back and we'll hit it hard again. All right, 5 minutes timer. Hey, it's back. The Google timer has returned. All right. All right. So 5 minutes. I will see you back here shortly. Okay, folks, come on back. We've got about 45 seconds left, so feel free to fill up your coffee cup or whatever you got to do. Um, MD Res again. Check your environment variables. Make sure. Yeah, not working could mean a lot of things, right? So um, yeah, so MD Res, that means there's something wrong in your environment file. Um, so make sure that you added all the variables, right? There was I think 5 variables that all needed to be populated. So there's something wrong in your env file. All right, we'll stop the timer. Okay, so we'll take one more look at the env file. So MDRes. So take a look at this. The variables need to be uppercase because that's how they're coded in our code itself. So make sure that you have matched this layout exactly, no differences. Make sure you've matched it exactly and that you have all of these variables populated. And if you're wondering what those variables are, or you're like, where do I find those variables? Hey, Louise, go to the README file and you can copy them from there. So literally, the variables are also right there in the README file as well. If you're not sure if you have them, populated correct, or if you're not sure if you have them listed out correctly. Yeah. So MDRes, pay attention closely there. What you just pasted. What's the difference between what you pasted for cloud name versus what I have here? So pay attention closely. Now it's not exactly the same. There's something different. See if you can spot it. Port 8500, DB string, cloud name. Look at what comes after cloud name. What's the difference between what you posted and what I have here? You got it. There you go. Gotta look careful, right? Every single character matters. Nice. I'm glad you got it. There's the only reason I piece of shoot high. The only reason I had you find that yourself is that happens a lot. Is when you're troubleshooting real code, sometimes the difference between whether it works or whether it doesn't is like a semicolon, right? It'll be one thing, and you can't overlook it because it like I literally spent 4 hours troubleshooting one semicolon once, um, and it happens. It's inevitable. So it's good to develop that eye if you can. Okay. So, like I said before the break, is we are going to look at what's happening in MongoDB to kind of power this code, and then we'll go into the code itself. Um, so let's go ahead and go into our MongoDB database. So if you've been able to connect, you should have your database. So go ahead and log into that. Go ahead and go to mongodb.com and log in and go to your cluster. And once you're there, go ahead and browse your collections. Okay, and then how do I know? So I have a bunch of databases here. How do I know which one to go to? How do I know which database I'm supposed to be looking in? How do I know where to go? Because you might not have as many as I have, but um, yeah, it's in the connection string, right? Because we specified the database in our connection string. So mine is called social app. Yours might be called something different. But I'm going to be looking in social apps. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And we can see here that there's already there's already three collections inside of this database. So where did we didn't specify any collections, right? We didn't, that's not in our env file. So where did those collections come from? Hazel. Yeah, they came from our model, right? They came from our models. We actually have more than one. But yeah, so MDRes, again, you're going to have to look very closely at your Cloudinary keys. So go back to your Cloudinary account that you created and make sure that you are grabbing the right keys and putting them in the right place, because it's still something's wrong in your env file. Yeah, so you're getting closer, but go back to your Cloudinary account and double check that all of your keys are exactly right, because that's 100% what's going on there. There's something wrong in your env file. And don't post don't post your keys here, but go back to your Cloudinary account and double check, like down to the character. Again, got to be careful, down to the character, no extra spaces, nothing. Copy them directly from Cloudinary. Yeah, and so yeah, exactly. Our collections are coming from a couple different places. They're coming from our model and from Passport.js, which is the middleware that we're using. Ray Anthony. Favicon, the magic of Favicon, yeah. Um, so yeah, they're coming from the model and from Passport.js, which is itself kind of building a model for us, right? So if we look inside of the first collection here, which is posts, I know that's slightly behind my head, but you should be able to see most of it. We can see that we have 5 objects in here already. So what do we think each of these objects, what do each of these documents correspond to inside of our collection? What do each of these documents correspond to? Right, DevQuest. Yeah, exactly. They correspond to an individual post inside of our app. And so here we can see we have our unique identifier, we have our title, we have our image with a Cloudinary URL. So we can tell that this being hosted on Cloudinary, and then MongoDB is just storing the link. Like we said earlier, it's only storing a URL. The actual hosting is done in Cloudinary. Right. And then we also have a Cloudinary ID. I'm assuming that's just a unique identifier similar to MongoDB, right? MongoDB is giving each item a unique identifier, and so is Cloudinary, because it's just another, hosting service. We have the caption that we put in. We have the likes. So every time somebody likes something, that's going to be updating this counter. And just real quick, let's say that I go in and I like a post. What kind of CRUD request do you think is being sent up to MongoDB in order to update this likes counter? Just thinking in CRUD terms, what type of request do we expect is being sent from our app? Yeah, it's an update or a put request. Exactly, right? Because whenever we update the likes, we're not creating a new post. We're doing a put to update. We're doing a put to update an existing post, to update this counter. Now we should see, yeah, so in this one right here, the number of likes is 1 because that was the post that I liked earlier. So it's keeping track of that in a counter. And we can also see on each item, we can also see a user field associated with it, right? So what is this doing? What is this user field doing? User has a field in here called object ID. Hey, A. Digson. No worries. That's what the VOD is for, my friend. Welcome to the stream anyway. You can actually catch the VOD now You can literally rewind. So you can jump off the live stream, hit up the VOD, and watch it from the very beginning. Absolutely. So Chanel, those posts are being stored somewhere. So I know you just created the collections on Mongo, but they are somewhere else in your Mongo, because if you're able to create posts, they are being stored somewhere. So you're going to want to probably look around MongoDB to see if it put them somewhere unexpected. And you might have look for a database called test and see if they're in there. Because if you're able to create posts inside of your app and you can see them, they are being stored somewhere, right? Test is the default. Yeah. So if it dropped them in test, that means that you probably didn't have a database name in your connection string, right? Because earlier what we did is we specified a database name inside of our connection string where to put those. And so if you didn't specify any, it'll create one for you called test. Yep. You found test? Yeah, exactly. That's because you didn't specify a database name in your connection string in your env file. Now, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not the end of the world. Um, it's okay for this particular use, for just when we're playing around like this, that's perfectly okay. But just know for the future, when you're building more apps, you're going to want to specify a specific database name. Yeah, we'll look back at the env file in a minute. Um, I want to finish talking about what's in here, but I promise we'll go back to the env file again because I know that's a big stumbling block for folks just getting that set up properly. That's what we get for juggling too many MongoDB credentials. Yeah, exactly. Um, okay, so my previous question was, what is being stored? What is being stored inside of this user field? Can anybody tell me what is being stored inside of this user field? Okay, and DevQuest says the unique user ID created by Passport. You're correct, it's a unique user ID, but is it the Passport user ID? What actually is creating specifically? I'm getting a little bit specific here. What exactly is creating this user ID? Yes, this is the user ID that is created by MongoDB. Exactly. And it is the unique user ID that is stored in our users collection. Yes. It's the ID that's given when MongoDB creates an entry. And that's really important to understand. The fact that um, we are for every time we add a user or we add a session or we add a post, MongoDB automatically creates an object ID that is unique for that document across the entire history of the universe, or at least in our cluster. And so for that particular object ID, we can tag that to other documents in other collections and use that as a point of reference, right? So this tells me that this particular post is uniquely linked to this particular user, and we can use those connections to essentially link those two together for our own purposes in the code. Kevin says, is likes just a counter or a list of users like length? I'm not sure I fully understand your question, but it's literally just a counter. So every time somebody clicks the heart, this counter goes up by 1. That's all it is. Just an integer counting up. Okay. So real quick, let's look at users as well. And we can see again that each user, so I have 2 users in my app. I have Wolf1 and Wolf2. But you could store all the users who liked it in an array if you wanted to. Yeah, you could. If you wanted to see specifically who liked it, you could grab that in other ways. Can you unlike? I don't know. We haven't tried it. That could be possible. That's just a thing that you could do in code. You could just say, if you could probably have a flag saying, did user X like this post? If so, they click it again, it unlikes. Just one like per user per post. Yeah, yeah. And there's ways you could track that. Um, definitely. Definitely possible. Yep. Okay, so here in our list of users, again, each user has a unique ID, which is assigned by MongoDB. We don't do that. MongoDB assigns this. And if you note, look at the password. So what do we think is happening to the password here? What do we think is happening here to the password? Why does it look like that? Yeah, it's hashed and it is salty. Yes. I could invent like my post. Yeah, you can put protections on that kind of thing. Yep, it's hashed, it's encrypted, all that good stuff. Um, Instinct says, I just got here, but will you go over Cloudinary? We're not going over Cloudinary in depth. That's going to happen in class on Tuesday. So I'm not going to get ahead of it. Um, and all we did is we set up our Cloudinary account, and we copied the connection keys. There's 3 of them. We copied those and we put them in our env file. So that's all we did, which I'm going to go over again in just a minute because some folks are hung up there trying to get that to work. But yeah, that's all we've done. That's all we've done with Cloudinary so far. And then, obviously using it to add some posts to our app. So the Zuck can finally be popular, liking all of his own posts. Yeah. Yeah, and Jack Tony, that's actually, I thought of that as well. So if y'all remember, if y'all were hanging out on the internet back in, the early mid 2000s, PhotoBucket was the place to load all of your photos. I used it definitely back in my old forum RPG days. That's where I hosted all of my photos. But yeah, this is like advanced PhotoBucket with much more intelligence. The free tier seems too good to be true. Yeah. Here's hoping it doesn't go the way of Heroku, right? All we need to know is Cloudinary is auto matching. My emo pics are still stored. Yeah, yeah. I don't know that I want to see, the the stuff I was putting on PhotoBuck. The kind of things I thought were important as a teenager. I don't want to revisit that. Thank you. Um, what happened to Heroku? Well, Heroku is losing its free tier closer to the end of the year. So we're going to have to move to a different platform. Kasava, Leon is working on that. So we don't got to panic about that right now. Leon is literally talking to other companies and getting us an alternative. So I haven't even given it any thought. I'm going to use Heroku until I can't anymore. And Leon will come through for us. He'll give us a replacement. Yeah. But for now, Heroku still works. So, okay. So we've got our users. And then the last thing that we've got here is our sessions. And we can see that in this sessions collection, I have 2 sessions. So why do we think in here, why do we think I have 2 sessions? Why do I have 2 sessions? Hey, Quad Shot. Welcome to the stream. Happy Saturday morning. Why do I have 2 sessions in here? Remember that sessions are tied to user logins, right? So why do I have 2? Yes, right, because they are for like QuadShot says, they're for 2 instances or 2 different users. Yep, they're for 2 users because I have 2 users in my app, and we can look at the timestamps here, and they're different. So they aren't going to match with like my local time, but one of these was logged in much earlier than the other. So one of these was logged in much earlier than the other, and that's just because user 1 logged in yesterday and user 2, which is the one I'm using today, logged in today. So 2 separate sessions. Yeah. Right, exactly. So we've got our users, we've got our sessions, and we've got our posts. So any questions here on what's being stored in the database and why? Also, last thing, why do we think that we are storing the date? Why do we think we're storing this date time of when the post was created? Why do we think we have a created at? Just guesses. I know we haven't looked at the code yet, but just guesses. Why is this being stored? Why do we care? Yeah, exactly. Because if you're familiar with Instagram, or social media apps that make some sense, unlike Facebook, most of the time they'll list most recent posts first. Yeah. All right, chat is popping. I'm just checking here. What did I miss? Feed order, yeah. Facebook makes no sense. Well, yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Is like, um, I said unlike Facebook, which doesn't make any sense at all. You want an app that does sort things by the proper order. Yeah. Advanced algorithm. Yeah. All right. So we're storing all of our posts in here, we're storing our sessions, and we're storing our users. Cool. Makes sense, right? And again, don't forget, we are tying each post to its individual user. So that way we can configure what sort of actions the user is able to take, what posts they see on their profile page, that kind of thing. We can do so much just by tying a post to a specific user ID. Just drop a math.random into the sorting algorithm. Nobody will tell. I'm convinced that's what Facebook does. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the code. Folks are wanting to see the env file again. So here is the env file. Here is the env file. And let's review what we have in here. So we have our port, self-explanatory. We have our database string. Now, for those of you who were having issues with the data not going where they would expect in the database, this is where, right here in the string, this is where you specify your database name. So notice it's after the slash, after that forward slash, and before the question mark. So in there, that's where you put your database name. Again, if you don't specify one, it's not the end of the world. It will write it to a database called test, but you're gonna want to specify a database name, definitely. And also too, yeah, make sure that you've just named your env file as just .env. You shouldn't have to specify anything else. Just name it .env. Have your database string in there. Specify your database name. You can name it whatever you want. I named it social app. And I'm going to put spaces between these variables so they're easier to see, or carriage returns. There we go. So DB string first, username, password, database name. Cool. We've done that before, right? Now, Cloudinary credentials. Cloudinary credentials, where do we get these? Well, we just go to Cloudinary. Here, I'm going to split screen this. We go to Cloudinary and we click on Configure Your SDK. Carriage returns are vertical spaces. Yeah, they are. All right. Go to Configure Your SDK, and that's behind my head. I'm going to zoom out just a titch. All right. There we go. I'm going to go to Configure Your SDK. I'm going to choose node.js because we're using node.js. And I'm going to copy each of the individual items and put them in my variables. Oh, good, MDRes. I'm so glad you figured it out. Nice. Yeah, because it's just those little typos that are going to get you, right? It might blow up the entire app because you mistyped one thing, one character, or had an extra space or something like that. So it can happen a lot, and it's something that you're just going to have to. It's managing frustration, right? Um, but yeah, so grab each of these, drop them in, leave the variable names as is. So they need to be in all caps and look just like this. Just grab the values and drop them in. Okay? So everybody good here on what we need in the env file? Jazzy Pen says, I never knew I hated semicolons until I started coding. Yeah. So, using PL SQL or Oracle SQL at work, SQL is a much more strict language than JavaScript. It has certain things that it requires at certain points, like characters that it requires. And then if you don't have those characters, it will give you some sort of super generic error that is not going to help you at all. And so, yeah, I've definitely had issues with missing semicolons and things like that have just blown up everything I'm trying to do. No semicolon gang here. Yeah. That's why I don't use them in JavaScript, because I'm tired of using them at work. Do we need the API environment variable for now? You only need what is in what I have listed here. You need all of these things. So this is just do exactly this. Port, DB string, cloud name, API key, API secret. You absolutely, if you want to run this app, you need all of those things. Gina says, I've never used semicolons in my coding journey. Will I be in trouble? Depends on what language you're using. SQL requires them in some cases. It just depends. JavaScript, obviously does not. Yeah, depends. I always forget to close my SQL queries with a semicolon. Yeah. Oh, MDRes. Okay, you messed up your quotes. Yeah. You forget CSS uses semicolons. Yeah, it does. There's your semicolon practice. Using semicolons gave me some peace of mind that the runtime or compiler didn't break. Sure, yeah. And I mean, you can use semicolons in JavaScript. There's nothing preventing you. It's nice when you start using React because it tells you exactly where and how you messed up most of the time. Yeah, that could be a great benefit. Yeah. Our UI is not mobile friendly. Yeah, that's why we're gonna have to write some media queries for this and to downsize it properly. I was thinking it probably wouldn't be media friendly. Mitch says, I got mine working. I put the API environment variable in the cloud name instead of the actual cloud name. There you go. Good troubleshooting. Chanel says, if I add the new DB name in the DB section of the string, will it automatically update? So what that will do is it will create a new connection to the database that you just added. It'll add that to MongoDB. It'll create a new connection to that. So anything that you've already uploaded into the previous database won't be there, but you can kind of start fresh with this new connection to the database that you actually want. So I would suggest just doing that. It's not going to move everything over, right? Because all of your previous users and posts are in that test database. But I would suggest just setting up the correct connection. And then I would also suggest deleting that test database. There's a little trash can icon next to the database in MongoDB. You can just click that and delete it. So that way it doesn't cause problems down the line. The CSS file looks exactly the same as the ones in my project. Nice. All right. So if you've updated your env file, don't forget to save it. There we go. And if you fix something in your env file, don't forget that you need to restart your server, right? Because if you notice, when I clicked save, it didn't restart. NodeMon didn't recognize the env file because NodeMon is just looking for JavaScript files in order to update. So if you're making changes to your env file and wondering why it's not working, don't forget to Control C and npm start so that it pulls in those variables again. Okay? So that's very important. If you're trying to fix a problem in your env file and you've made changes, you've saved it, and you wonder why your app is still broken, Control C to kill it, and then npm start to start it up again so it reads in those variables that you've changed. Otherwise it won't. Otherwise it won't. Okay. So we get the data from the Node.js SDK. Um, I'm not sure if I'm not sure how to answer that. Essentially, it's just you just need to your node just needs to know to process those variables again. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. So to set up the Cloudinary, well, for Cloudinary, you just go to cloudinary.com and set up an account, and then you can grab the variable names from the README file and populate those. Yeah, Akechi, and remember, I'm so glad you were able to solve your problem, Akechi. That's awesome, great troubleshooting. But again, remember, be careful with your terminology. What we are specifying in our DB string is not a collection. What is it? What are we specifying? What are we specifying here when we say, like, when I say the word social app in my database string? Yeah, yeah, it's specifically the database name. It's not a collection name. It's a database name. And again, where do we specify where are the collection names specified? Where do we decide what data to put in what collection? Where is that set up? Yeah, it's inside of our models or in, it's actually inside of the model and not the schema. Yeah. Model, yo. Uh, okay. So I'm glad so many folks managed to fix the issues with their env files. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and pivot and take a cruise through the code itself. We're not going to go super deep, just because Leon is going to be covering this again on Tuesday. But he did tell us specifically. Um, he did tell us specifically to look at the routes and look how data moves through the routes. So Piece of Shoot's encountering some errors there with packages and stuff like that. Yeah, Piece of Shoot. I didn't up when I ran this. I did not update any. I did not update the packages. I just did npm install and didn't worry about doing audits or trying to update everything to the latest version. And it worked just fine out of the box because I didn't do that. And I know there's things that need to be fixed, and maybe that'll come up in class. But yeah. Oh, nice. Latest passport does the session destruction internally automatically. That's cool. I feel like that's important. Yeah. Not coding along today, going to try to set up later. That's totally fine. Code Cruise. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to make this full screen again. All right. So in which folder would I look? In which folder would I look if I want to see what the user, if I want to see the code or the pages that the user sees when they open up our app? Where would I go for that? Which folder would I go to? Yeah, I'm going to go to the views folder, right? And in there, we can see a bunch of pages. Exactly. Thank you, Kasava. Yeah. Um, so why are they in the views folder? Why do we put our EJS files in a folder called views instead of just kind of hanging out outside of a folder like we used to? Now I'm asking the hard questions now. Why do we put them in there? Yeah, we're using MVC structure here in general. Yep. And also just because since these are templates, right? They're templates. They're not HTML. They're dynamically generated based on what they get back from the server, right? We're going up to the database, we're getting some data, we're dropping it in, and we're sort of dynamically building these and then outputting HTML in the end. And so that's why they're in views instead of, for example, at the root or in public somewhere else. Yeah. And it is for organization in general. Yeah. Because we have a lot of pages here. Okay. And we can also see we've got all these pages and they're kind of self-explanatory. We've got a page for feed, a page for index, so like the main page that you visit when you first open the app, login, post page, profile page, sign up page, and to-dos page. I don't know what to-dos is. This seems like it may have been left in accidentally. Well, that's going to be my next thing I was going to ask there, MD Res. So, can anybody tell? So obviously we have something different in here that we may not have seen before. Yeah, tech debt, exactly. I think this is a little mistake. So we'll ignore that for now. It's okay. It's not hurting anything. All right. So we see that there's something new in here that we may not have seen before. We have a folder called partials, and if you look, we can see that it's being referenced up here inside of this feed.ajs. It's being referenced here, partial/header. Um, yeah, partial/header is being referenced here. So let's see what's in partials. Well, we have header and we have footer. Interesting. Now, what do we see about feed.ejs? So feed.ejs, what do we see about feed.ejs that might give us a clue about what these are for? What do we think this is for? Yeah, and folks are already giving some wonderful answers there in chat. So partials, like Hazel said, partials are smaller bits of EJS that you can use on multiple pages. They are reusable pieces of code that you can reference multiple times and plunk on multiple pages at once at the same time. You can just it's kind of like you know in Microsoft Word how you can do like if you're writing a report or something, you know, in high school they would always say, all right, you need to, you know, you need the title in your header and you need page numbers and that kind of thing. And you would just go up to header, click on that, fill it out, and it would apply to all pages at once. And then if you made any updates to that header, it would apply itself to every single page. That is literally what we are doing here. Anything you put in here and then reference on another page will just apply itself multiple times. Can we technically use partials as block-like components that aren't necessarily header and footer? Yeah. Yeah. If you had like a section that you just wanted on every single page, totally. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Yeah, it's really, I love this because it makes it so you don't have to keep, you know, copying and pasting the same information across multiple pages, right? So let's look at the header. I think you could probably tell why we don't want to paste this multiple times, right? Why we don't have to copy this to literally every single page over and over again because it is beefy. We're not going to go into everything that's here. I just want to give you the general idea of why we might want to use partials for our header and our footer. Dry, indeed. Yeah, it is. It's dry. And for someone like me who makes a lot of typos, I only have to get it right once, right? I only have to get it right once, and then I can just reuse it over and over again. You've all seen how many typos I make. I gotta use partials. Yeah. So does this make sense what we're doing here? We're taking everything that we would normally put into our head of our HTML or EJS page, and we're just dropping it in, right? Just drop it in and it works. Yeah. So let's look at the footer. There's probably not much in there. Yeah. So we just have some closing tags here. It's all good. And then one more script. And this is actually our Bootstrap script. Again, we're not going to talk about that yet. But this is our script for Bootstrap, which is sitting at the bottom of every single page, because on every single one of our pages right here, we are just saying, hey, grab that file and drop it in at the bottom, right? So super clean, super easy. And as Hazel says, if you update your header once, you would have to update it on every page. But with this, we can update just this header.ejs file. For example, if let's say I wanted to add like favicons or something like that, I would just drop in the URL here once and it would apply itself to every single page. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense because it's extremely useful. Excuse me. Yeah. So why? Okay. I'll run it back. Yep. So partials are useful because they create snippets of code that we can reference multiple times and just reuse over and over again. So let's see how this is. So what's inside this partial is all the usual stuff that we would have in the head of every single page that we create, right? You have a head, and you have your link to your style sheets, and you have, the UTF-8, all this stuff, all this metadata that we don't show to the user but has to be there for the browser to render the page successfully, right? And have all the URLs and links and things that it needs. And normally we would drop that in at the top of every single page we would create, right? It would always be there. But what we're creating here is a reusable component that we can just reference instead of dropping it in. So let's see how we reference that. If I go to this page right here, I see the word include partials/header. So what is that doing? Well, it's saying, all right, I'm going to go find this header file and I'm just going to drop it in here at the top of the page. Just drop it in. And we are also doing the same thing with a footer. So on this page where I would normally have all that head metadata, it's just referencing the header that we already created. Yeah, so not everything that you have inside views will be partial, just whatever is inside the partials folder. Yes, exactly. Yes, because header and footer always repeats, right? Yep. These are actually, so everything that's not in the partials folder, these are full-fledged pages, right? This is what we're going to be showing to the user. The partials are just parts of pages that we can reference multiple times. Yep. Yeah, and you can name partials whatever you want as long as you reference it correctly here. But most people seem to use partials, and it's probably just a good thing to do to make it make sense. Yeah. Okay, so that's really important to understand because it's going to be really useful for you to use, when you're building your own stuff. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that helped you, Louis, or Louise to view it again. This is gold. Yeah. Yeah, and naming convention for partials maybe to start with like an underscore in front. Again, it doesn't. It's one of those convention versus necessity things, and in that case, I think it's just a naming convention. Yeah, of course, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay. So, inside of each of our files here, let's just look at feed.ejs. We're not going to do a super deep review here. My goal is that really you just get this running and you kind of poke around in it yourself, right? And then we're going to go over it more on Tuesday in class, so don't panic. But the goal here is to get it running, try to follow some of the things yourself, and then, be ready for Tuesday. Gonna start my partials with an overscore and you can't stop me. Yeah. I'm gonna start all my partials with an octothorpe. Uh, all right, so here we're including partials header, and this is just like the page where we would see all of the posts that are posted to our app so far, just in general, right? So what we would expect is that what this code is doing is it's just listing out literally all of the things, all of the images that have been uploaded to the app so far in chronological order. So let's see how it's doing that. How is it listing everything out? Well, what is it doing here? What is it doing here? Yeah, it's looping, right? And what do we think it's looping through? What do we think it's looping through? Posts, yep. And where do those posts come from? Yeah, exactly. It's a loop that's as long as the array that iterates through every post in the database. Exactly. Yes. So it's getting a bunch of posts back from our server or back from our controllers. It's looping through every post that we're getting back from our controllers. And that's why I asked the question, because somebody said is it coming from post.ejs? Well, think about MVC structure. Can the views can our individual views inside of MVC, can they talk to each other directly? Can views talk to each other directly? No. What do they have to go through in MVC structure? What do they have to go through first to talk to each other? If you want something from one page to be visible on another page, what? Yeah, they need the controllers, right? So remember where things are actually coming from. This data is not coming from another view. It's being processed through a controller first on the server side and then being given to the view. The snitch controller is selling out the model to the view. Yeah, exactly. Snitching. Yeah, it's being routed, it's heading up through controllers and then coming back down. Exactly. All right, so we're looping through a bunch of posts we got back from the database. And we can see that for each one it's looping through, it's creating a hyperlink. And inside of that, or sorry, it's creating an anchor tag, right, with a link inside of it. And inside of that anchor tag, it's dropping an image. And this is fairly self-explanatory here. It's basically saying, all right, for whatever post we're currently on, just grab the image and drop it in, right? Put it in an image tag, put it in an image tag, and show that image on the page. Not too hard. But what's happening here? What is this linking to? What do we think? What do we think this is linking to? It's putting that image inside of a hyperlink so that when we click on the image, something happens. What is this linking to? Hey, Harry C. Welcome. Impressive product of the system, man. What do we think this is? What do we think this is doing? Yeah, so this is grabbing the unique ID, right? It's grabbing the unique ID and it's creating a path. It's creating a path that contains the unique ID of that particular post. So that way, it can do something that is specific to that post ID. So let's go back to the app really quickly and we'll just see what happens. So I'm on the feed here. And we are literally on, this is the page we are literally on, is localhost 8500 feed. And if I click on an image, what that's doing is it's visiting a path that contains the unique post ID. Boop. And I don't know if you can see that, but if we look up here in the path, that's what we get. We get a path that says post slash the unique ID of the post. Yeah. Looking for Cloudinary link? No. No, this is not a Cloudinary link. This is the ID of the post in the database in MongoDB. Yep. Now you got it. Yeah. So that's what that's doing. It's passing the ID of the post up to the server so that the server knows what information to retrieve and how to render the individual page for that post. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's follow this route. We're gonna trace this route through the server, through the controllers, or through the server, through the router, through the controllers, and then all the way back down to where it renders the page for the individual post. So we're gonna follow it up and we're gonna follow it down. All right. So our path here is slash post slash and then the unique post ID, whatever that may be. I love tracing routes, really clears things up. Yes, 100%. And that's why I wanted to get this app running so that you could see the routes visually, and then you can also trace them through the code. Because I extremely agree, Zena. That's the best way to understand an app is to just start with a route like this and trace it literally all the way through the code. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so our route is slash post slash unique post ID. Now, where do you think this route goes next, right? Because obviously I click on something and then something happens. But when this is clicked on, where does the data go first? What's the next step in the code? Where should I look next to figure out where this data is going? Remember, what we have MVC, right? And certain things can talk to other things. But of our specific files, which do we think is next in the process? As a little hint, what part of the app is listening for certain things to happen? What part of the app is listening for things to happen? Where have you seen that before? Listening. Folks are saying controller. Yeah, but I want to be more specific. Which specifically? What is listening? App dot listening for things to happen. App dot listening. Yep, some folks are getting it. Where do we app dot listen? We know this. Server.js. Yes. Literally, the server is listening. That's what it does. Yes. Server.js. Yep. App.listen. Icon. Welcome to the stream. We're tracing routes today, my friend. Yes, server.js is literally, that's not just a word. It's listening for things to happen. Yep. We are app.listening. All right. Line 61. Yeah, exactly. We are listening. So that is where it goes first. All those other things, all those other answers were not wrong. They're just not the next step in the process, right? If we're tracing this route, we're going step by step. We got to think about the steps in order to really figure out what's happening and where. So I kind of, hey, Great. Different teaching styles are great because everybody learns a little bit differently. And folks may not learn, the best from me, but they might learn from other people better. So that's why different teaching styles are super great. Yeah. So start at the server. All right. And I need to, I was talking too much. I need to remember what that path is. All right. So it's slash post and then the ID. Okay, perfect. So we're in the server now and we can see that we set up the specific routes for which the server is listening. All right. So looking at this section, what is the next place I should be going? Based on the path. Remember, our path that we're going to is slash post slash image ID. So where to next? Oh, Kosova says, you can control click on a variable to show where the variable was made. Oh, very cool. Yeah, we're going to post routes, right? Because our path starts with slash post. Exactly. So we're going to post routes. All right. How do I know what the frick post routes is? How do I know what that is? Where do I find what post routes is? I mean, sure, I could look in the routes folder, but let's say that I don't know, let's say I had a super complicated app and I had a bunch of different routes. How could I be sure? Yeah, it's in the variables at the top because in order to reference it, we have to require that location. So here, this is telling me specifically what post routes is and where it's going. So I know where to look now. So I'm going to go to routes slash posts. Okay, I have a routes folder. I'm going to look in posts. And in here, I have some middleware and things like that. We're not going to worry about that right now. That'll be covered on Tuesday. Right now, we're just going to focus on the post routes. Okay. So again, remember my path coming from my view was slash post and then the ID of the individual post. So which controller well okay so not which controller but which method inside of my controllers am I going to be hitting next? Which method do you think I'm traveling to based on the information that we have, based on the path that we have? Which method am I headed for? It's the get, yes. And how do I mean that's a reasonable guess, right? You could guess that based on what the page is going to be doing, right? It's going to be getting information about the post. But how do I know for sure? Let's say because it's very possible that I could have multiple gets. I could have multiple routes that involve a get, right? Getting different pages, getting different components, that kind of thing. I could have 6 or 7 of these. Yeah, because we need to look at what it is waiting for, right? And in this case, it's waiting for a path which just contains the unique ID. Right, exactly. We aren't the path does not contain create post, it doesn't contain like post, it doesn't contain delete post, it just contains the ID. And so again, it's important to not just look at the type of request, it's important to look at exactly where what the route is waiting for, right? Because again, you could have multiple gets, multiple posts, multiple, depending on how your app is built. Um, so, okay, fine. But why doesn't this say slash post slash ID? Yeah, we are due for another break. I want to get through this route so we don't lose momentum. We're doing really good so far. We're almost done. So why doesn't this say slash post slash ID? Yeah, because we're already on the posts route, right? The server was listening for the first part of that path. The server was listening for the slash post part, and then we went through our routes, and now we're just getting the second part of the path, which is just the ID portion. Yeah, exactly. And we have a little middleware here, that's okay. And it's telling us specifically what method we're going to and what controller we're going to. So we're going to post controller, and the method is called get post. Okay, so, and we can see here again, we're requiring post controller up top, and it's telling us where to find that. So in this case, it's in the controllers folder, and our controller, our file itself is called posts. So we can go there. And again, we're looking for the get post method. Okay, so controllers post. And we have a get post method. Okay, so it's a fairly simple one. What do we think is happening here? What's happening here? What do we think is happening here? And it's just this line, the one I've highlighted. Luckily, Mongoose methods are pretty self-explanatory. Yes, exactly. We are finding a specific post by its ID, by its unique ID, by that ID that will never be duplicated. That unique ID that was passed in through the path, right? We passed that unique ID all the way up from our view through the path, and now we're reading it. We're passing it into this method. What does this part mean? Just the part that I've highlighted, post dot and then stuff. What is this referencing here? What do we think this is referencing? Yeah, we're referencing our model. So we have a post model, which we'll talk about after the break. We have a post model. We're going into that specific post model. So that's also going to be specifying a specific collection, right? We have our post collection. We're going into our post collection. We're finding by ID the specific ID that we passed up. And what's the next thing that we're doing? What are we doing here? Yeah, finally, we get to render another page. All that work, right? All that travel, all that distance just to render another view. We're just rendering another view. And what we're doing here is, well, I guess, okay, I'll ask, what are we doing here? So we're rendering the view, right? But that's not all. We're doing something else here. What are we doing here? Yeah, like Zena said, we're not only just rendering the view, we're also taking the data that we found in the database, right? And we're passing certain elements. We're passing certain elements that we grabbed from the database, and we're sending them in with that view so the view can use them. And so if we think about how the page is built, right? It has a big image of the post. It has information about the user. It has information about the post itself. And so that's what we're doing here. We're sending that information so the view can use it. Exactly. Yeah. And then we're just console logging if there's any errors. Okay. And essentially what that does then is that takes us back to the view. We render it. And there's a lot here, but really all it's doing is it's just using the information that we sent it, right? It's using the title. It's using the number of likes. These are all components that are stored in each document, right? We have the title, we have the likes, we know the user information, that kind of thing. And it's using what we sent it from that controller to then render the page. And then so in the end, what we get is this, which is a page that contains only the data about the post that we clicked on. So all that work, all that path that we just followed literally happens when I do this. Boop. All of that happened just to generate this page with this information on it. Boop. All of that. Because it happens blazingly fast. Yeah, absolutely. I can't quite get this part. Where exactly is rec params ID coming from? So when we say rec.params, what is that telling our code to do? What does rec.params mean? First of all, what does rec mean? REQ. What does that mean? We know that. Is it required? Request. Yeah, REQ means request, and that's important. So again, let's look at what we clicked on. We clicked on this. And what's in this path? It's the word post, and then the unique ID of the post that we clicked on. So by the time that gets all the way up to our controller, let's see, actually, wait, I'm going to go to the router first, sorry. So in the router, on that path, the router is listening for a specific ID value, right? A path with a specific ID value. And you see that colon ID. Essentially, what that tells us is that is a variable. That this variable contains the unique ID of the post that we clicked on. So then in the controller, when we say rec.params.id, it says, all right, I'm going to look in the request. I'm going to look for any of these for a variable of some kind. And I expect that that variable is going to be called ID. Right? Rec params ID. Look in the path, look for a variable, and look for a specific variable called ID. That ID is literally coming from the path that we sent in the first place. Yeah, and we aren't referencing the database directly. There is no database call here, right? In our controller, we first have to have the ID before we can go talk to the database, right? The ID is what we're sending up to the database to find something. So the ID comes from the path itself, comes from the URL that we sent. That's where that comes from. And then we get it, then we grab it out of the database. Yeah, it's just looking for the variable. The specificity is the ID. Exactly. Yep. Okay, that's awesome. Great question. Yep, it's basically just saying post.find by ID and then blah, 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 all the ID information. Exactly. And yeah, this is another thing that's really important to understand. So I'm glad you asked that question. All right, we got to take a break. Let's take a break. 5 minutes. Think about this, collect yourself, and then we'll come back and answer more questions. Breaky break time. And I also want to go over the models too. So we'll go over the models and answer any additional questions on the routes. So start. See you back in 5. All right, folks, come on back. Got about 30 seconds left in the break. Grab a fresh glass of water or whatever you need. I'm going to grab my coffee cup, which I forgot earlier. All righty. Stopping the timer. Let's go back to the code. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to turn up my light a little bit. It's so lovely and bright outside. There we go. A little better. Okay. So somebody asked, how does our code not get confused when we say rec params ID? Isn't ID a value that could be stored? We already said the database could add it to, well, will add it to every single document in every single collection, right? So how does it know where to look? Well, what do we have here? What is that? What did we say this is? The thing I have highlighted right here, the first line. What is this? What is this that I've highlighted? When we look in the database, how does it know where to look? It's the model. Yeah. And so it knows, it's not going to get confused about the IDs because we're literally telling it that you should only be looking inside of the post collection via our model. Our model specifies the collection. We say, all right, use the post model, look in the post collection, and find by ID from there. So I hope that makes sense because we are literally limiting that search to just our collection, our post collection, finding by ID in there, grabbing the ID from the URL, finding by that ID, and returning what we get. So it's not going to get confused because we're literally telling it exactly which collection to look in. So it's not going to be looking in the user's collection because we aren't using the user's model. We're using the post model. Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, so any questions here before, because I do want to look at the models as well. Any more questions here? Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, but feel free to ask if you think of stuff. Let's go ahead and look at our models. So post is models/post and not post isn't create. Yeah, yeah. Post here is referencing like an Instagram post, right? It's referencing a specific collection of data that relates to an image and a title and a caption for a post on our social media app. And that's a great distinction to make. Yeah, because we're using terminology that could kind of, that can mean different things in different contexts. And so, yeah, exactly. In this case, the word post is referring to the post model, which is referring to like our Instagram posts or our social media posts. Yeah. And it's defined at the top of the file. That's true. So again, we can, if we're not sure, we can look up here and we can say const post equals require models/post. Yep, exactly. It's a model. Yep. Post versus post. I know. It's confusing. So let's go ahead and look at that. Here inside of our models folder, we have two models, one for post and one for user. And again, we're using Mongoose for this because Mongoose lets us do some additional functionality, including something called schemas. And so here we are creating a schema. Now, What is a schema? Just in general terms, like, don't have to give me any specifics. What can we say a schema is? Just a general definition. What have we said it's like in the past? A blueprint. Exactly. A schema is a blueprint, right? Which tells Mongoose how to construct the data that we're going to be passing into our database. It can have certain parameters, it can define certain properties, it can define certain requirements, that kind of thing. It defines how the data should look. Yeah. Now, if I have a blueprint, does that automatically mean my house is built? If I have a blueprint for a house, does that automatically mean that my house is just going to be there? Right. Yeah, it's just the plan, right? If I have a blueprint, that doesn't mean that my house is built. Yeah. So what actually builds the house is our model. So we have our schema, which is a blueprint, and then the model is what's going to build it in the proper location. Yeah. So just want to be clear on the distinction there between the two, because I sometimes say the wrong thing. I'll say like, oh, it's the schema built the thing, but no, the schema is the blueprint. You have to implement the blueprint with a model, and then call that model, activate that model, and then do stuff that way. So okay, so we have our schema here, and it contains essentially all the properties of each document that we want to create. And this one's not terribly complex. Excuse me. This one's not terribly complex, but we can see that we're specifying a data type, which is a string, and we're also saying that it's required. So if I try to post something without, let's say I try to submit a new post without a title, will it work? If I leave the title field blank, will it work? Nah, dog. Title is required. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of these things are required. Um, so we have a title, we have an image, we have a caption, we have likes, and we have a user. Now, something interesting here is we have a Cloudinary ID. So what this tells me is that in the code, before, like when we do a post, when we do a new post, um, something is also grabbing the Cloudinary ID and dropping it in here. So that's something in our controller that's going to grab that Cloudinary ID and drop it in here as well. Now, we don't really have to concern ourselves with how that works yet. Again, it's going to be covered on Tuesday, but just here's this additional field that is coming in from somewhere else, obviously. Caption, likes. Now, likes are slightly different. This is a type of number because, again, it's just a counter. It's just going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. And so we're specifying here that it's a number. It's also required. And then we have the user that's associated with, we're specifying the user that's associated with that particular post. Yeah. So, wondering why we need an image in the Cloudinary ID. So I think the image is the URL. The image is the URL, like the hyperlink to the image on Cloudinary. And then Cloudinary ID is an additional identifier for the image itself. I don't know why we need both of those things, but I believe this is actually the URL, and then this is a unique identifier. Yeah. All right, so user here, we can see this one has an interesting type. Its type is Mongoose schema types object ID. Mongoose schema types object ID. And what that's doing is it's basically specifying that this field is specifically going to be a MongoDB object ID that we are using to link posts to users. Rascal says, I think the ID, so talking about the Cloudinary ID, is used for when we delete the post. We want to also delete the image from Cloudinary. Okay, that's fair. So this is referencing, so this is linking the individual post to a specific MongoDB user ID, creating that connection. And then we have our created at, and we are setting a type of date. And what do we think this default field is doing? What do we think? What do we think this means when it says default? What do we think that's doing? Any guesses? What do we think the default field is doing? Is it a format? Yeah, okay. It sets a date if one isn't added. Now, when I submit a new post, I know it's been a little while since we've looked at it, but when I submit a new post in the app, do I manually type in the date? Do I say, okay, it's September 10th, a little after lunchtime? Do I manually type that in? No, I don't, right? I don't. What this is saying is that if nothing is specified, in which case we aren't, it's just going to automatically insert the current date and time. I would feel like a journal, right? Yeah, and we don't have to. Mongoose can do that for us. So that's what we're doing here. Yeah. All right, and then the last thing that we're doing is we're taking this schema and we're exporting it as a model. We're exporting it as a model. So we're calling this model the word post, and we are assigning the schema that we just created. We're assigning post schema to that model. And within this model creation, by default, we are also specifying which collection we are talking to. So mongoose.model, the first argument is the name of the model itself. So we can reference it in our code. We can say, post.find by ID, whatever. It's going to be referencing this model. We're assigning it the blueprint. We're giving our engineer the blueprint to our house. And there is technically a third argument to this. And that third argument to this method actually specifies the collection. Now, in this case, we didn't put anything in the third argument, right? There's nothing there. And so by default, because Mongoose is smart, it will just say, oh, you didn't specify a collection? Well, I'm just going to take the name of the model and I'm going to make it plural. And I'm going to make that into a collection. Does that make sense? So if I wanted to create a collection with a specific name, I could literally just be like posts and specify that there. But I don't have to, because Mongoose is smart and it will do it automatically. It will say, I'm going to create a collection called posts, make this plural, drop it in my database, and you're good to go. Captain's log, start date September 10th. Yeah. Date times in JS are so bad. Yeah, they are. March 2090. Population. We are stranded in the depths of understanding MVC. Controllers. Schemas. Yeah. Reference on line 26. Does that mean it's referencing a user collection? Ref user? Oh, yeah, exactly. Yes. So this is referencing our user model right here. So our other model that we have in our code is called user. And so we're literally just referencing that. And we're grabbing the object ID. Also, I love Star Trek, so any Star Trek references y'all ever want to throw in there, I'm totally down for it. I'm so happy it's Star Trek has had a renaissance here in the last few years. All right, so in our schema, that's what we're doing. We're just setting all the values. We're setting up the blueprint, and then we're exporting it so that we can reference it elsewhere in our code. Excuse me, I need to sneeze. And it's gone. Okay. Yeah, Inferno, and that's not really something we've done so far. So I mean, I wouldn't get too tied up in knots about it, but it does look like that's what's happening here. Where looks like we're referencing our user schema, or sorry, our user model. My bad, referencing our user model inside of our um, posts model. Yeah, so I mean, I want to mess around with that a little bit. I haven't really done that, but yeah, it seems pretty cool. All right, and so in our user schema too, again, we're specifying some properties. So we're specifying our username, we're specifying an email. We can also specify that these values have to be unique, right? So non-repeating values, which makes sense if we're creating a database of users, and then a password, which is a string. Yeah, that's really cool, Hazel. I like that. I'm definitely. So if you recall, last week we built a restaurant menu tracker, and one of the things it didn't have was like a reference to user ID for like specific menus. And so I think I'm going to modify that to do exactly what we're doing here, and reference user data and tie those two together finally. Yeah, yeah, no, that's rad. I love that, Rascal, and Hazel. Thank you for, yeah. Um, because I'm definitely going to modify that restaurant app to do literally this. So perfect. That's why I like, doing tutorials and looking at other people's code, because that's really the best way to learn new and better ways of doing things, right? People get nervous about doing tutorials or get nervous about not literally writing and researching everything themselves. But in this case, we just kind of stumbled on something that would be super useful, and it's already there, it's already applied, we know how to use it. And I think that's, a really valuable thing. One-to-one linking for the win. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we have our schema here, and then we just have some hashing middleware. It's hashing our password, salting, hashing, all those things, and validating passwords. So when a user signs in, right, they're going to be typing their password in plain text, and we can use bcrypt to compare that to the hashed and salted password that's already stored in the database, compare them together, and see if they match. Yep, we're getting all relational now, and then the populate call, you can filter, select all the SQL goodies. Yeah, exactly. It is kind of funny, all the things that SQL just does very plainly, right? Like SQL, you can just it's just all in one statement. You just write everything out, and you just tell it what you want to do, and it does it. This is a little bit different way of thinking about. For me, it's a little bit different way of thinking about databases, where you have to just construct things in a different way in order to do what you want. Whereas with SQL, you just like, hey, go do that, go do filters and things like that. So it's just a different way of thinking. Not any better or worse, just different. Zena says it's wild hearing professionals talk about how their companies didn't encrypt their customers' passwords. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's wild because it's so easy, right? It's so easy. You just copy the code and just, it's all there. You don't have to write any of it yourself. Just, it's all out there online. You can just copy and paste it and drop it in and have it be done. Yeah. Okay. So, what I would highly suggest is that, I know we traced one route, right? We traced one route through the code. We traced one route through the code all the way up through the server, through the routes, into the controller, and then back down to the destination, right? To the destination view. So that's what I want you all to do yourselves, is pick a different route. Just pick a route anywhere in the views, any of these views. I don't care which one. Pick any of these anchor tags, find a route, follow it up through the server, through the routes, through the controllers, and then back down to wherever it ends up. Don't get into all the what every single line and every single piece of middleware is doing. Forget that. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Just try to figure out where the route is going and where it ends up and why. Jazzy says, is there anything that you actually prefer with MongoDB over relational databases? Um, I like that MongoDB. I like the flexibility to a certain degree of MongoDB. How you can easily handle things, how you can store things so easily and set requirements so easily without having to like structure an entire table first. So like in SQL, you have to build out your entire table. You have to build your data types. You have to set all of these settings beforehand versus with when you're building schemas, you can be a lot more flexible. You can change things on the fly. You know, require, unrequire, set defaults. All it's very just like, yeah, just you want to change your documents, it's all good, man. Change them whenever. Versus SQL, it's very you have to build your table first and then put the data in. So, there's pros and cons. So we just need to attempt to understand this on a surface level. Yes, that's all. That's all that Leon asked us to do. He literally told us, "Don't worry about the Molter and the all this middleware. Don't get lost in the sauce. Just find some routes in a view, for example, like this. Maybe follow this route. See if you can trace it through all the control through the server, through the routes, through the controller, and figure out where it goes." Yeah. And there's lots of stuff, right? But don't get daunted by it. Just run the app. And if you can't figure out where a route is going, then do it in the app itself. Go to the app and create a post and then see where it takes you. Look in the header, look in the URL bar and see where you end up and see if you can get there by following the code. So you can use the running app as a guide to figure out where you're going and why, and then trace it in the code. Oh, thank you for the bits, Anonymous. I appreciate it. Lady Luck figures the one who tries. Yeah, exactly. Is there ever an instance where we have to write or edit logic in the middleware? Well, you can write your own middleware. Middleware isn't just a thing that you use. You can also write middleware if you have a specific thing that you want to be handled when requests are going up and down from the client to the server and back. You can write specific middleware for that. Yeah. And like Hazel says, lots of times you'll write your own. I mean, there's plenty of prepackaged middleware out there. And for now, you can just copy and paste and don't worry too much about it. But eventually you'll be writing your own. Quad says, I'm excited for when I get up to this class level. That's awesome, Quad Shot. Yeah. Are you in the catch up crew? I'd rather not. Well, don't worry about it for now, Xena. Just copy and paste what's there. We've been given a lot of middleware. We've been given the insure auth middleware. There's Molter, there's Passport. All that's middleware. So just use what's there for now. It works, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then eventually you'll get comfortable enough to write your own. Yeah. Um, so somebody was saying they were having trouble following post create post. So real quick, last thing we're going to do is we're just going to follow that route. Okay. So Carsis mentioned they were looking at post create post last night. Got lost trying to follow the form data. That's fine. So post create post. All right. The first place it's going to go is, where's the first place we're going to visit after this is clicked on? What's listening for this click? What's listening for the click? Yeah. Yeah. Now look how everybody has the right answer. Nice. Y'all got it now. All right, we're going to the server. We're going to the server. And again, we are following the post path. So we're going to post routes. And we saw that up top, we said post routes. We're requiring routes/post. So let's go there. All right, routes/post. And what was the path again? I believe it was, oh, sorry, that's the controllers. My bad. I'm sorry. Routes, posts. And it was create post. It was create posts. So post/create post. We can see where the router is going. and we're going to the post controllers. Now, there is an upload in here, and that's simply because we uploaded an image, right? When you create a post, you upload an image. Don't worry about it. Just know that that's what that's for. We're uploading an image from our computer to create a new post. Don't panic. Just know that it's there. It's part of it. All right. So we're going to the controller, and we're going to the post controller, which is in controllers/post. Okay. All right. And that was, which post, create post. Okay. So the method is post controller dot create post. Okay. Create post. All right. And so now we're here. We're actually in the controller. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to upload our file that we uploaded. We uploaded a file from our computer. We're going to drop it on Cloudinary. Again, it doesn't matter how this works right now. It's uploading something to Cloudinary. Cool beans. Okay. Now, what are we doing here? Just in general, what is this doing? Just by looking at it, don't have to get specific. In general, what is it doing? Yeah, it creates the new post in the database. Exactly. It's using our post model, which is referencing the schema, to add a new document into our database. Exactly. Yes. And then we get a console log. And then what are we doing here? So if we create our post, we wait until that's done, console log, and then what are we doing here? Be careful. We're redirecting to what? Yeah, Lewis got it. We're redirecting to the profile route. We're not redirecting to a page. We're redirecting to a route. Exactly. So we followed one route all the way up. We've done our action in the database, and now our controller is saying, all right, now head over to the profile route. Fine. And so what we're doing there, let's follow that one now. All right, so back to the server. It's still listening. It hears a request for the profile route. It's clicking. Good job, Luis. Yeah. It's looking for a profile route. Well, it doesn't start with post, so that's not going to be where we're going. But this one will work. It says, all right, I recognize the slash. I can do that. Let's go to the main routes. Inside of main routes, I'm looking for one that references the user, the profile, the profile path that we're going to. So in that case, it's going to be this one. Yeah, there it is, right? And here we can see, like I mentioned before, we have multiple things that might be getting got. We have multiple GET requests here. So you can't just look at the type of the request. You 100% have to look at the specific path that's being passed. And in this case, it's slash profile. So profile, we've got some middleware, doesn't matter. We're going to go to our post controller and the specific GET profile method. Okay. Post controller, get profile, controller/post, exactly. All right, let's find get profile. Ah, here it is. All right. And here what we're doing is we are finding all of the posts that are associated with that user ID. And then finally, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Exactly. We are rendering profile.ejs with the data from the database. Yeah, exactly. And so what's interesting here is that some of y'all were right. You're saying like, oh, well, we're just gonna get the user profile, right? When we first started this route, it was like, oh, we're just gonna get the user profile. So this is where we were before. This is what I asked you originally. I said, all right, what's happening here? Res redirect profile. And some people assumed that, yeah, we're going to get the user profile. And in the end, you would have been right, but you shouldn't assume. You need to make sure that you're following the route and understanding what's happening at each step, right? Because there are a few intermediate steps there. We had to hit the database first, and then get the data that we needed before just rendering the profile page, right? There was something that needed to happen first, and that was literally fetching the data from the database so that we could render the page properly. Yeah, exactly. First, we need to fetch the new data that was submitted by the user before we can properly render the profile page. And so that's why we needed to follow the proper route so all of those steps could happen. Yeah. How come it uses the slash in main.js? Uh, well, in server.js, it uses a slash. And that's like a default. Yeah. So if the path is not recognized, it's going to try to find one in the slash route. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kasava. Yeah. I'm glad it's clicking. That's why we like to trace routes, because if you just follow it's logically, it does make sense. You just have to follow it diligently. Don't skip any steps. Don't assume that anything is happening. You might see a profile, like you might see a route with a name that seems obvious, so you might just try to go straight to the next page, right? But that may not be what's happening. There may be other things that are happening in intermediate steps, so you need to trace each step and understand what's happening at each step. Immediately read applesauce. I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry too. We're gonna have to wrap it up here shortly. Hey, Corin. Yeah. So, what are we currently programming? Well, we are exploring a social media app, like a homegrown social media app, and just basically understanding how the code structure fits together. Um, we are using JavaScript, Node, Express, MongoDB, and EJS on the front end, along with Cloudinary for media hosting. And yeah, we're just kind of wrapping up right now. But if you're interested in this, you can definitely check out the VOD. Because yeah, it's fun to learn how these web apps, all the components fit together. So yeah, welcome to the stream, Corin. And I'm actually learning this stuff as well. I am a developer, but I am a SQL developer. Um, yeah, it is interesting. It's fun. We've been tracing some routes, understanding how things fit together. You're fine, Corin. Your English is great. You're all good. So yeah, I'm a SQL developer by day, but I'm learning web development by night. So yeah, getting a lot of different exposure to different things. Um, and yeah, we're actually part of a free online course called 100 Devs. If you want to learn more about it, you can type exclamation point Leon, Leon, in chat, and that will give you some links to the Discord, which is super active, um, and yeah, some other resources as well. All right, so I think we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. Um, Definitely, the homework here is to go into the views, pick any of these routes, any of them, doesn't matter which ones, um, any routes at all. Trace them. Don't get into the middleware. Forget that. Don't get into the weeds. Just literally follow the route. Figure out where it goes. Follow it through the server. Follow it through the router to the controller, and then see what the controller does, whether it goes to another route, whether it renders a page, whatever. Just follow it all the way through and try to figure out what path it's taking. Okay? Any last questions before we wrap it up for today? Also, too, don't forget tomorrow. Um, tomorrow is the super review. So it starts at 1 p.m. Eastern on Leon's channel. So not on my channel, but on Leon's channel. Again, exclamation point Leon if you need a link to that. It's going to be on Leon's channel. It's going to be many hours long and definitely worth it. So please do attend. I will be there. Um, and yeah, no stream from me tomorrow because it's going to be overlapped by Leon's stream. It's going to be very long, but definitely worth it. So Luis, if you want to know what variables you need in your .env file, click on the README. So look in the README, and that shows you all of the variables that you need. So if you have the code open, you should just click on the README file and see all of the variables that you need. Party at Leon's, yeah. Good. I hope everybody who's in chat right now will be there tomorrow. It's absolutely worth it. And you can always like have it playing. If you got to do some other things while it's running, you can have it playing on the mobile app, just audio only, and take a walk or something. I mean, that's what I did last time. Um, yeah, definitely. See you all at Super Review tomorrow. Um, any last questions? Will this be another 8 hours of fun? I imagine so. Yeah. I imagine it's going to be a marathon stream from Leon. Thank you, Fifth. No worries. Yeah. You become the thing you focus on the most. Yeah, exactly. No worries, Raina. Hope to see you tomorrow. And yeah, definitely don't just let this app sit until next Tuesday. Don't do that. Get it running. Trace the routes. Understand the flow. Don't concern yourself with all the middleware. Leon is literally going to talk about that on Tuesday. Um, just understand how the pieces fit together. Definitely do that before Tuesday. Oh, thanks, Rascal Catalina. Yeah, and there's other things you have to be doing too, like your hit list, but don't neglect this. Good, Japple. No worries, SVU. Thanks, Quad Shot. And also, too, if you missed part of this stream, if you missed any part of this stream, it's going to be available as a VOD immediately afterward. You can rewind, you can watch me at 2x speed, doesn't matter, however you want to do it. It's available as a VOD. And also, I have a YouTube channel where I post my older stuff. So, exclamation point YouTube if you want a link to all of my other streams on YouTube. You're welcome, everybody. Oh, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Jag Tony. All right, let's find somebody to raid, shall we? I'm hoping we get some different people today, just because this is not my usual stream day. If you want, this is for those of you who may be new to the stream. This is not my usual scheduled day. So if you want to see my usual schedule, go to my Twitch channel and click on schedule, and you will find that information there. All right, I'm gonna get my raid list pulled up here, and let's see if as always, if you have any suggestions on someone you would like me to raid, I'm happy to hear those. Otherwise, I'll just pick someone. All right, we've got the wonderful Lana Lux, who is a fantastic streamer, building an incredible single person developed game from scratch. So unless anybody else has another suggestion, I think we will raid them, because Lana is an incredible coder, incredible programmer, streaming literally every day, and building an incredible product. Thank you for accompanying me on my morning bike ride. Yeah, that's awesome, Lilo. All right, we're gonna go ahead and raid Lana because they're cool. So we'll send you all over to them. And I haven't seen the progress on their game lately, so I'm really interested to see what they've done. All right. And as always, if you encounter issues while you're getting this app running, last thing, if you encounter issues while you're trying to get the app running, ask on Discord. Somebody will be able to help you. Absolutely. All right. Sending you over to Lana here in just a minute. Raid is starting. And I will see you back here again on Wednesday as we resume our normal schedule. Well, I'll see you all tomorrow first for the super review, but I will see you for sure again on Wednesday for regularly scheduled stream. All right. Talk to you soon.